My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be John and Mother Goose, Video 21, The Ballad, B-L-L-A-D. Here is my novella, John and Mother Goose, The Carnival of Tales, picture of John and Mother Goose on the cover, surrounded by what I call mythical characters. These are nursery rhyme characters. Now, the summary. I'll read the summary on the back cover. While driving his granddaughter home from daycare, John suddenly finds himself standing in the midway of a carnival of Mother Goose fairy tales he created by Jack, of Jack and Jill fame, who tells John that Mother Goose is expecting him, as she has a role for him to play. But what does Mother Goose want? Why does she think John is a writer of detective stories? And why, when she meets John, does she greet him almost as a long-lost son? And for that matter, why do so many of the fairy tale characters have different stories they want John to write for them instead of the ones in which they have lived for hundreds of years? John is not a mythical creature. He's only a human, after all. But can he save the Mother Goose Carnival? Can he solve the mystery of the vanishing fairy tales? Well, when I think of a ballad, I often think of the songs and poems that were written to be sung and sold along the route as a criminal was being taken to the place of execution. As such, it had some basic qualities. It told a story, it was dramatic, and it was brief. Here's the ballad of the writer of detective novels. In the first verse, there's a reference to a crime. So, Chapter 3, page 15 and 16. Let me find it here. Okay. Oops, I gotta find the first. Here it is. Okay. This was going to be a ballad to be called The Mother Goose Crime. But such a title is not yet valid. Out of joint, it seems, is the time. Then we go over a page for the second verse. There are two writers in this story. One writer is present and one is not. Perhaps the crime scene will be gory. One is a sleuth and one is not sleuth or detective. Okay, that's chapter 3. We go over to chapter 5 to page 32. To get another couple of verses of the ballad. So here's verse number 3. There is a man who is a detective. He is also a man who writes books. Are his godmother's powers defective? Are her purposes mistook? Verse 4. He is the world's greatest detective, the world's greatest writer as well. Is his godmother's wand defective? Has she misread her book of spells? Okay, from the fourth verse we go to chapter 7 to page 48. For two more verses. Right. The detective waits and he wonders, checks his watch from time to time. His godmother seems to have blundered concerning the case of the nursery rhymes. And then over a page, will his name be connected to this criminal affair? His reputation become infected, even though he isn't there? And then the last two, page 64, 65. He will track down this impostor. He will make him rue the day. Visit on him, grave disaster. There are ways to make him pay. This culprit he vows to catch. He is a bloodhound under a spell. He will track this ink-stained wretch, though the bounder should hide in hell. Okay, here's a note about the ballad. Here's a topic that might interest only me among the potential readers of this novella. Although it's nowhere printed in the text of any of my novellas or novels, I often write in my planning notebooks and my journals that every word of a novel or novella of mine is an image in the mind of the main character. So I suppose a reader of this novella might ask whether this is the case. If we look at what I would call the surface story of this novella, it seems that John, the main character, knows that Mother Goose believes that he's a writer of detective books. He also knows, as we hear him thinking, that although he is a writer of books, he's not a writer of detective books. Now, this ballad is a story of a writer of detective books. According to the story in the ballad, the writer of detective books wonders whether his godmother's powers are defective, either because her wand is not working properly or she has misread her book of spells. According to the ballad, the detective writer waits and wonders and checks his watch under the assumption that his godmother has blundered in her attempts to send him to the location of the case of the nursery rhymes. In the later verses of the ballad, we find that the writer of detective books is determined to track down an imposter, somebody who pretended to be him, which would be a person who has pretended to be the writer of detective books, and make this imposter pay, which sounds to me like a threat of violence. So how, a reader could ask, could the words of this ballad be imagery inside the mind of John, the main character of the story of the visit to the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales, when all John seems to know, according to the rest of the story, that is to say the text of the novella without the ballad, is that Mother Goose has mistaken him, John, for a writer of detective books. How could that get inside John's head? How would he know there's a real detective writer with a godmother, fairy godmother? Well, perhaps I could say this. This was a puzzle to me at first. The story of the visit to the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales is not literal. It is a dream, perhaps a dream nightmare, which means that it's a fiction which is created in the mind of John. Now, a dream or a dream nightmare, when it acts as either a problem solver or an explorer of a topic of concern, is a pattern of imagery which is designed to generate speculative meaning. It could be said that we dream not because we know something about a topic of interest, but because we don't know something about a topic of interest. Or perhaps we could say that what we do know about a topic of interest is not enough, is not satisfactory, and therefore we require some speculation, some thinking, some fictional imagery in order to allow for further speculation. So, perhaps we could say that John, in his everyday world of driving his granddaughter home from daycare, creates a fictional image pattern, the visit to the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales, in order to explore an aspect of life about which he doesn't know enough to feel completely satisfied. And, number two, this would be, so too does John as he's living through the baffling experience of interacting with Mother Goose and Jack at the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales, create a fictional image pattern in his mind, the ballad of the detective writer and his godmother, in order to explore an aspect of life about which he doesn't know enough to feel completely satisfied. So in two cases, he's dreaming, he's making up something, he's fictionalizing. When he's with his granddaughter driving the car, he imagines he's at the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales. When he's at the Mother Goose Carnival of Tales, he imagines a story, a fictional story, a maybe story about this missing detective. As I said at the beginning of this note, the question of why the ballad is included in the text of this novella, the question of who or what is generating the imagery of the ballad, might be of interest to other readers than myself. However, this exercise in asking myself about the logic of the way I write my novels and novellas does illustrate the value of the planning notebooks and the journals that I write as accompanying books to the fiction that I write. I'm constantly asking myself what kind of fiction I write. And the answers not only clarify what I've already written, but spur me on to explore topics of interest in the fiction that I'm about to write. So I constantly ask myself questions about the books I've already written. That helps me to write more books. Such questions lead to a consideration of the basic premises on which I base the creation of my fiction. So, this is my novella, John and Mother Goose, The Carnival of Tales. It's found on Amazon. If you have a look there's more information. It's found on my publisher's website, rocksmillspress.com, where there's more information. On my website, there's a planning notebook and there's a journal. If you click on the cover icons, you'll get to read those books for free, and in which I discuss all kinds of topics about literature and life itself. So have a look if you're interested. Lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.